Que Syrah, Syrah, whatever will be, will be. Is that appropriate for today?
It very much so. I wasn't expecting that. She just broke out in song. Just like that.
Just like that. I wanted to shock you. Oh, allow me to pour, Rob. Not on me, but into the glass. Haven't even had any yet. Welcome, RobbyG.
Cheers, and welcome.
Everyone out there. My name is Gina.
And I'm RobbyG, the professor of cheese.
Yes, and we are here today to talk about Syrah, Shiraz, and all that jazz.
In pizzazz, with a lot of pizzazz.
Of course. And I don't got nothing else. You should have been more prepared.
Let's keep going.
Let's keep going. So for those of you that are new, welcome. We're just going to sit and gab about the wine that we have featured today and all the 4 cheeses that we have paired with the wine. And if you're a veteran, of which there are many out there, thank you. We've got the chat line open on YouTube. Mm-hmm. All you need is a YouTube account to chat. If you don't have it, you can still watch the screen and see the chat happening.
Yeah.
Try to answer questions.
You have an extra special bonus today. You'll be able to hear the Padres game,
which
is happening right outside.
Yeah, let's hope.
Dude, I hope you can follow along.
Follow along, yeah. I hope it's like yesterday with the 15 runs. I don't know, something like that. Hopefully a good one. Yes, but we have the ambiance of the Padres tonight.
And ash falling from the sky.
Ash falling, hummingbirds swarming.
Yeah. So everything
it's a good
that
night.
Downtown has to offer.
It's a good night. So, good evening, Jason. Good evening, everyone.
Welcome, everybody.
Yeah.
So, should we we want to talk about the wine first, or we can walk you through the plate and do the order first? Let's do that.
Do that.
Okay. So we'll start with just identifying the cheeses and laying them out so that you know what is what, and our suggested order, which is the same as what is on the top of your lid. And the first cheese we're going to taste, and this is a really funky plate. I'm really excited about this one. I like strong cheeses.
You want to jazz and pizzazz?
Lots of pizzazz and all that jazz.
And we've got the national anthem. I think so.
Oh. It is.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Okay, this is the Quicks. So it's got that kind of yellowish, lighter yellow. There's a darker yellow or orange one, but this is the lighter hard cheese. The second one, the Monte Enebro, is this kind of, it's a white cheese
funky
in the middle, and the dark ash, it's actually an ash rind, so it's not from the falling ash, but that was already there, made by the cheesemaker. The third cheese is the Jeff Select, and that is the dark, almost orangey one. It's got a dark rind on it as well. We'll explain what that is, and it's got the little flecks in it too. So we'll explain what that is as well. And the fourth cheese we're going to taste has this blue wax rind, and it is a blue cheese. It's one of my favorites. So we're going to get to that fourth because it's going to be strong and funky and fun and all that good stuff and all that jazz. And there's crackers, rosemary as usual. Mm-hmm. We've got a little chocolate. The chocolate is a fun chocolate. We'll talk about that when we get to it. Grapes, Marcona almonds, apricots,
fig jam,
and then the jam is a fig jam. So the fig jam is one of our standard go-to jams. It's a really, really fun one to play with, and it's a really versatile one that we use a lot for pairing.
Yes.
So we'll get into that as well.
All right. So without further ado, start nibbling your cheeses, and most importantly, start taking a sip of your Syrah that we have tonight.
Start with the Quicks, but what do we want to say about the Syrah?
Ah, the Syrah. Wow. It comes from a land down under, but not the land down under. This Syrah comes to us from New Zealand, and it's called Te Mata. It's a family vineyard, have been growing grapes and making wine since 1896, so over 100 years. Yeah, so it's very cool. In a part of New Zealand I've never been. Have you?
I have never been to New Zealand or Australia.
Yeah, Hawke's Bay. So sounds fabulous.
I know it's North
beautiful.
Island.
Okay, sexy, gorgeous. And that is where this 100% Syrah comes from, New Zealand. So this is really interesting. It's dedicated grape, single grape, so single varietal, the Syrah. And this is really clear because this is what I learned in the making of the wine. They use egg white, Rob. They put egg white into the French oak because it's aged in the oak, and that egg white acts as a natural clarifier. Isn't that fascinating?
So
all the solids kind of cling to the egg white, and then it also grabs some of the really harsh tannins, which makes it much more smooth. fruity, less tannic, which I like. Because when those things like suck your mouth
You
dry,
like it less tannic.
I like it less tannic, which is why I'm a super fan of Syrah.
Yeah.
And also I'm a fan, though, of Shiraz, but guess what? Here's a factoid. You want to hear?
Yeah. I love factoids.
Okay, factoids. I always have said Shiraz, but truly, you do pronounce it Shiraz.
Shiraz?
And all that jazz.
What?
So that's why it went with our theme, Shiraz and jazz, instead of Shiraz and jaws.
I'm so that guy who goes, Shiraz sounds more fancy. So I would, at the wine market, I would order a Shiraz, but it's Shiraz.
It's Shiraz. So then you probably want a Syrah because that sounds more...
We have...
I don't know.
It's funny, sometimes people order cheeses and they're American cheeses. Like we have a cheese called Mount Tam, and somebody saw the sign one time and they go, can I try the Mont Tam?
The Mont Tam.
Because they just assume it's a French pronunciation.
Exactly. And it's not, just very cash,
So Shiraz, okay,
yeah,
Shiraz.
So Shiraz is the proper pronunciation.
Did not know that. Yeah.
But also what I have learned now is that they really are one and the same. Right, depending on where they come from in the world originally, right?
Yeah, they're just they changed the name. The origin of the name Shiraz is unclear. Most of the stories, legends point to that it was the capital of the Persian Empire.
Okay.
Hundreds of years ago, and they think that maybe that's where the grape came from, and then went through Greece and the Mediterranean, and then up to France. To wine country. It's sort of it's considered a French grape, and they called it Syrah when it got to France.
Okay.
And Syrah, and it's kind of known or connected to, I guess, the most famous Syrah region or village in France is in the Rhone Alps, and it's called Hermitage.
Hermitage. Well said.
I was going to say Hermitage.
Yes, it looks like Hermitage.
Hermitage, like a monastery, but it's Hermitage.
Hermitage.
And so whenever you see something labeled Hermitage, it is Syrah. That's the grape.
Okay. This is a super tip because I've always seen Hermitage, but didn't know it was Syrah. And now I will know that I like them because I love Syrah.
And that's where it's very much connected to. And then there's a couple places where they call it Shiraz, and it's Australia and South Africa. But I don't know why. If anyone knows, I don't know why it took on the name Shiraz when it's
leapt over the
places.
sea.
Yeah.
Well, is it just because Rome is Roma, Wien is Vienna? You know what I mean? Do some things just take on a different?
It could be like it was anglicized or something. Who knows? Or maybe somebody spelled it wrong on like an invoice when it came into South Africa.
I like the look of it.
This looks way cooler. Somebody had handwriting like my handwriting, Gina. Not legible.
We'll get into that. Not legible.
Serial killer handwriting?
Yes. Everyone who's seen Steel Magnolias from years back will remember when, what's her name? Oh, she's the greatest actress. Olympia Dukakis said, no, Olympia Dukakis. Olympia something.
I don't know.
You have the handwriting of a serial killer.
Many doctors and really smart people have bad handwriting as well.
Oh, is that it? I see.
We're going to go with that.
Okay, sounds good. Well, the Syrah is awesome. It's fruity. It's light. Whatever you call it, Syrah, Shiraz, I will take it every time.
It is the 7th most grown grape in the world.
What?
It is the most grown grape in Australia. It is, but it's grown everywhere. And for warmer climate, Syrah, it is or hotter climates, it has like a jammier fruit and less tannin. So I wonder if that is kind of in that family.
Definitely the case, which is true. They say that's like the modern Shiraz and the Australian varietals in New Zealand, close enough, tend to be the more fruity, jammy, which is what I like about the Syrahs.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering if I've even ever really had a French Syrah. I'll have to be fun to compare.
Yeah, and the French, as opposed to the hotter climate, the French is considered a moderate climate for the Syrah, and so the moderate Syrahs have they're more tannic, so you wouldn't like it as much, and they tend to have more like earthy and spicy notes to them. So
Hermitage. I like it so much. Awesome. Can we try the Syrah with the Quickes?
Yeah.
What do we think? Quickes. So, Mary Quicke, this is a lady cheesemaker from Devon. Am I saying that right? Devon, England. Did you say
Devon?
Devon? Am I making it too fancy? Devon. It's just Devon, England. Yeah. Very quick. English cheddars. I love them, Rob.
There is a flavor that just jumped out right away.
Tell me.
And, well, I have this flavor in my mind when I eat their cheese because they came and did a cheese talk for us one time. And it's horseradish.
Yes.
And so I don't know if I would have come up with that if I didn't already have it in my mind. But now I cannot get it out of my mind. Every time I eat their cheese, I think horseradish and horseradish is like, it's the same plant as mustard and wasabi, and so but this one is, to me, specifically horseradish.
Horseradish is great. You're right. But also, you know what I get from the English cheddars all the time? Stone. I really feel that an English cheddar is the flavor of what I expect a cave wall to taste like.
Yeah.
If I were to lick the cave wall, I think I would get that flavor. And I love that. But that might be inherent in the horseradish.
It's limestone, mineral. To me, it's like if you pick up a river stone and you just lick it, like lick a wet river stone.
I'd love that. I don't. Yes.
To me, that's the essence of that. And what's really interesting is there's a couple different sort of types of, just like there's a couple types of Syrah, there's a couple types of cheddar. You have the really traditional versions that are made around the village of Cheddar, and Devon is pretty close to the village of Cheddar.
Okay, whatever.
In southwest England, and there's still a handful of cheddars or cheddar styles made there, and Quicke's is one of them. And so Quicke's is the last name of the family, and the Quicke's family has been on that land for a pretty long time, Gina.
Yes. You know what? I think since about 1540, which Mary Quicke says is twice as old as America.
1540. Since the time of Henry VIII. Hank Ocho.
Seriously, you said that?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Was that his nickname?
Hank Ocho. They
that was the time of Henry VIII?
Henry VIII. Yeah, 16th century.
Was when this came about.
And so that was the time where Henry VIII, I don't know how many wives he had. He had like 7 or 8 wives, and he wasn't chopping their heads off and stuff, and because they weren't bearing children, and he needed a male heir.
Rude.
And so he kept wanting to divorce his wives, and the Catholic Church was not cool with that. So he basically broke off from the Catholic Church, and like that started a lot of like the wars between Protestant and Catholic in England.
Wow.
And so anyway, so
crazy,
right? And so when the Catholic Church lost all their land, they reallocated the land. They took it from the monasteries and they gave it to private people. And one of the people was married one of the people from the Quicke's family in the 1500s, and that's how the Quickes ended up on that land.
Okay.
And so they've been
crazy.
there forever.
Twice as long as we have.
Twice as long as the United States.
Yeah.
And so they've been making cheese for I don't know how long, commercially, and but they make an old school cheddar style
bandage wrapped, all the just classic traditional what you expect from England.
Yeah, there's another there's a couple other cheesemakers in the area. One is called Keen's, which is the last name.
Yes.
Of the cheesemaker. Montgomery is another one.
Super famous, yeah.
And they're all
Lincolnshire Poacher.
Lincolnshire Poacher. Southwest England is sort of the mecca of cheese in England. Cornwall, if you go all the way down, you hit Cornwall, and they're known for great food as well. But what was I going to say? Cheddar is there's a place called the Cheddar Gorge.
The Cheddar Gorge. That sounds awesome.
And it's beautiful,
yeah.
And people would go there from all over England and all over, like from Wales and Scotland, and they would go camp or go hike in the Cheddar Gorge, and they would stay in these hotels in the area or these inns, and the inns would carry the local cheese, and it was something very similar to Quicke's.
Yeah.
And so when they would go back to London or wherever they came from, they would say, "Oh, I had this incredible cheese down in Cheddar," and that's where the name cheddar cheese comes from.
Ah, nice.
And so there's, I don't know if there's any cheese made in the town of Cheddar.
In Cheddar, wouldn't that be ironic, right? Right? Yeah.
But it is the most popular style of cheese in the world.
Yep. Cheddar made everywhere,
and we only really talked about one style, which is the very traditional style, which is what you guys are tasting. But the other style is big block cheddars, more commodity or factory cheddar, which there's still really good cheddars that are made in the more factory style, block style. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but
they can still be delicious.
They just tend to be more, I would say, one-dimensional. More, they can be aged for longer amounts of time. A lot of times, instead of being bandage wrapped, they're wrapped in cryovac, and they can age for 5, 10, 20 years.
20 years, crazy.
So they get to be really, really sharp. So 2 different styles of cheddar,
but also all very good.
Yeah.
It's really good with the Syrah, I have to say. They just go like this. Neither takes away from the other, neither enhances the other. They just kind of fit together very, very nice.
That's good.
Is what my taste buds think. And our good friend Carol out there had a question, which is very good too, because the difference between Syrah and Petite Syrah.
Oh yeah.
Because you see that name, especially here in California, a lot. So completely different grape.
Yep.
Where Syrah and Shiraz, same grape. Petite Syrah is a completely different grape. It had a different name in its origin. It has a very different name, but then someone in America said, "Oh, that's an awful word. I'm going to create this one called Petite Syrah." So it was a name that's just kind of made up for a completely different grape.
Yeah.
But I also love Petite Syrah. I think it has some of the same jammy characteristics and such.
Yeah, and I can't remember the 2 grapes that Syrah is born from, but it's a completely different varietal, Petite Syrah, and there is a story as to why that started being called Petite Syrah, and I don't remember what it is, but it is a different grape.
Yeah, exactly. But delicious nonetheless.
Yeah.
Also good with cheese, if you ask me, because it's fruity. It's one of those fruity ones. I tend to go to those fruities with the cheese, so all good.
Well, they tend to be very good pairings and very versatile for cheese.
For sure.
That's actually a pretty good rule of thumb is for wines, especially the red wines, in my opinion, and they tend to be the ones that get fruity and jammy. It's like a subtle sweetness that really tends to play off and be a contrasting pairing with cheeses.
With cheese, which is why white wines tend to go so much better, like overall, with cheese. But why aren't we using? This is our last time for white, right, Rob?
Because of Labor Day, you can't do white after Labor Day.
And we won't be wearing white after today, and we will not be drinking white after today.
After Gina spills her red wine on that she won't be wearing it anymore.
Yeah. That's what we've decided.
But yeah, no. Cheddar is one of those words too that was never protected, and that's why it's also made everywhere. And it's made in Vermont, California, Wisconsin.
Oh my God, all over the world.
All
Literally
over the world.
I saw Japan is making cheddars.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So, I mean, cheddar's better.
Kraft singles are cheddar. American cheese are cheddar. They're all cheddar.
Cheddar family. That's why it's just so prevalent all over the world, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Cheddar.
So very, very completely different cheeses, but they can still be called cheddar. And even the color will differ from white to this color, which is kind of like a golden, to orange to yellow. I mean, some cheddars are as orange as this apricot.
Yep. Get this. So our friend Carol out there said her grandfather used to call cheddar cheese rat cheese. Okay, that's not probably a good marketable name, but I think the rats would love it. Did everybody see Ratatouille?
Really good for the
cheddar.
For the rat trap.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm not going to give him any of that. I'd fight the rat for that.
I mean, it's interesting. People sometimes will cheddar can have a bad sort of connotation, and people will come into the shop sometime and say like, oh, I'm looking for something different, and so I don't want any cheddar or any common cheese, but it's because and I grew up thinking cheddar was those blocks of orange stuff that you found at the grocery store, and I thought Swiss cheese was the white cheese with the holes in it.
Yes, sliced at the deli.
I thought Gouda was the red wax cheese.
Yes, and brie was had no movement to it, no flavor, yes.
But
that's a good point.
But some of the best cheeses in the world and most complex and really most highly regarded cheeses in the world are cheddars, or in the cheddar family.
Yeah.
And a lot of them they originate in England, or there's some really good American cheddars that are copycats of traditional English cheddars, like cloth-bound cheddar from Vermont.
Yep.
It's made in
that
co-op.
style.
Yeah.
Flagship.
And flagship from Seattle. It's also made in New York. And then there's the one from Modesto, Bandaged.
Bandaged.
Yeah, actually, that was another one. Someone saw our sign for Bandaged cheddar, and they ordered Bandaged cheddar.
Yes, it is funny because you just do want the cheeses to have a very...
why not?
Is it the word bougie name?
Bougie.
Pronunciation, but cheddar's better. So, I like it.
We'll be talking about cheese names on Sunday, by the way.
Yes, we'll talk about that. Let's move on, Captain, Professor.
What do we have next? So next we'll do Monte Enebro.
Ooh, yeah.
This is a fun one.
You guys, take a look. I mean, when you take the cheese, definitely pick it up. Give it a smell because this is a goat cheese.
I just ate it.
So you're just not even smelling it or anything. And then the outside, look at that ash. And it's a thick layer, Rob, on this one. So what's interesting about this, y'all, is it's so cool to see. This really gives you an indication of how a cheese ages because you see that kind of beige band right under the rind and versus the center, which is much more white. The thicker that band, the riper the cheese is. So this is a really ripe piece of Monte Enebro. Sometimes we get it and it's completely white with just the ash on the outside. Yeah. That means it's really young. And that's going to be when it's kind of milder in flavor. Today it's going to be more intense, but you just gobbled that like nothing. How is it?
Oh,
you just
love
it.
that. Yeah.
So obviously you can eat the rind. That comes up often, right?
You should eat the rind on this one, and the rind is kind of special because it has this cheese has a lot going on, and I couldn't resist. I just had to bite into it because I don't see it always this ripe, and Gina had it sitting out before I got here.
It's perfect.
And so it's perfect. It's room temp. It's kind of sweating a little bit. It is delicious. At least I think. I like a stronger cheese. Monte Enebro means juniper mountain or juniper hill, and so I'm guessing that juniper grows on whatever mountain or hill that this cheese is made on, or wherever the animals graze. It's 100% goat's milk, and it's from Avila, which is a town in the region of Castile and Leon. And that is kind of in the center of the country of Spain. It's their biggest autonomous region.
Okay.
And it's like, I think it's just north of Madrid, and in La Mancha, which is where Manchego comes from. But it's a fairly new cheese, at least new, and compared to other old world cheeses, it's probably 20 years old or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. From the 80s or 90s, yeah.
And they do the ashing, and so kind of interesting that we have an ash cheese today with ash falling from the sky.
Very appropriate.
And that was a technique that started in the Loire Valley and was made sort of popular in the Loire Valley in France. And so a lot of cheesemakers have taken that technique and run with it and wherever they're from. California cheesemakers do it. So they use an ash on the rind, but there's also penicillium roqueforti that they have on the rind of the cheese, and that is the mold that goes into blue cheese. And for blue cheeses, like one of the cheeses we're going to taste in a little bit, typically almost always they will inject the cheese with the penicillin, and then they'll poke holes in the cheese, or they'll put the penicillin in, and then they'll poke holes in it later to let the air hit that penicillin. So for this one, the penicillin is just on the rind, so you can really taste it.
Yeah, it definitely has that blue flavor, and it looks blue. I mean, it gets a blue hue, has that blue flavor because of that. Yeah. It's fascinating cheese. And it comes in a shape, it kind of looks like a squished log. Yeah. They actually say that it looks like a foot of a mule. Like it's just looks like the side of a mule's foot. But it's lovely. You just do a slice of that, right? Lay the slice on a board, a little bit of fig jam, apricots and stuff with it. This is good. This one, interestingly, with the wine, they stay separate to me. Like I can still taste both of them distinctly, but equally. Yeah, it's interesting.
I can really taste blue on the rind.
You can, me too. And I think it's because it's so ripe.
Yeah, no? And I can taste there's a barnyardiness. The tasting notes also say citrusy or kind of lemony. I don't get that as much. I think I would get it on a younger
I think so too.
Version.
Yeah.
And a lot of goat cheeses have kind of like a citrusy notes to them for whatever reason. This one is, as Gina said, it ripens from the outside in, and that ripeness is really creeping towards the middle. I really like it.
It is good. And this is the epitome, Rob, I think, of, the Quicke's had the little crunch to it. and kind of that butter crumbly texture. This one is fudgy. When you hear somebody at the shop say, "Oh, that one's really fudgy," I think that one's the one. Like just like kind of.
You know, it makes me think.
Coats the tongue.
I was thinking of that. Do you
Fudgy.
remember the milk commercial where the guy was eating like a brownie or something, like a fudge, and he he had to get the trivia question. It was Alan Burr. I think it was Burr.
I think
Alan
so.
Burr, and he couldn't talk.
That's exactly it.
Wasn't that a Got Milk commercial? Yeah.
I think it might have been. That's a good one. This is the adult version, Monte Enebro with a glass of wine.
Somebody's trying to answer our question. They're like, "Oh, actually, you're just typing. Sorry, I can't type with my mouth full."
But that's awesome. Yes, that's exactly that. The Monte Enebro.
Monte Enebro, yeah. So we had cow's milk to start, and then we had a goat's milk.
Yeah.
And we don't have any sheep's milk today, but that's okay.
Sheeps. Yep, that's
Sometimes
all right.
that happens. You ready for
I
cheese
am.
numero tres?
Numero tres from this one, bright orange, which is gorgeous, from Minnesota.
Well,
Yeah?
it's actually from two places.
Oh, do tell.
Well,
With your mouth full.
no. Wait till I take a bite and then ask me to
Yeah, I
tell.
will.
Jeff Select is the next cheese, so it should be pretty clear which one that is. The darkest one, and it's an aged cheese, so it will have the crunchies in it as well. It's aged a minimum of a year, but it starts its life before it goes to age in Minnesota. It starts its life in Wisconsin, and I believe the cheesemaker's name is Maple Leaf. That's the cheesemaker. The guy who makes it, his name is Jeff Widman.
Yes,
And
Jeff's Select.
So then Jeff, he begins the life of the cheese, and then he passes it on to his buddy Jeff, so another Jeff, who's in
Jeff and Jeff.
Minnesota, and the second Jeff Jerick, is at the Caves of Faribault, and he takes it and he cares for it and ages the cheese, and he starts the cheese off for the first month or so with his blues and some of his kind of wilder cheeses, and the cheese picks up some of their cultures and some of the all that good stuff that attaches itself to a cheese, and then he puts it into another room and ages it for 12 months and sometimes a little bit longer, and it's a Gouda style cheese. And just like we were talking about Cheddar, how Cheddar is a place in England, and Gouda is also the name of a town. And the town Gouda is in Holland, and they pronounce it Gouda. And there's actually, I don't know if there's any cheese made in the town of Gouda, but it's really known for a market that takes place there.
Yes, which you went to this market.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've been to the cheese market in Gouda, and I've been to one in Alkmaar. Those are the two big ones in Holland. And Holland is in the Netherlands, and so everything coming out of there, I mean, pretty much everything that I've seen are Goudas or Gouda-style cheeses. Alkmaar is the market by Amsterdam, and then Gouda's more in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
And so they have goat's milk, sheep's milk, cow's milk.
Gouda.
Yeah.
It is very Gouda. This is again the definition of crunchies in cheese. This Jeff Select, right? I mean, it keeps popping. It almost like, remember we did Wacky Wednesdays and we had the Pop Rocks? This almost is a Pop Rocket-esque.
Are we going to have some
Just
Pop Rocks
crunches
tonight?
And crunches. I got some still. We could do Pop Rocks with it. It'd be good. Oh yeah, we might. Anyway. I love Jeff's. It's different with the wine though. Interestingly enough.
So
Rob.
how does it play with the wine?
So with the wine, it takes away, because I think that the Jeff Selects is sweet because it is a Gouda, inherently like caramel, toffee, butterscotch. I think it takes the sweetness then out of the wine. Now the wine kind of seems more tannic. It's almost drier. I bet you it tastes more Syrah-like, French Syrah-like, drier.
Interesting.
Because of the sweet cheese. It's very fascinating. It's a complete play. It plays differently.
Does it make you like the wine less because you don't like a tannic wine as much, or is it just kind of fun to see how it reacts?
Yes, this one, I like the cheese more. Some of the other pairings, I've liked them both equal. This one, I definitely like the cheese more because then the wine got a little dry. But but some people might really like that. It's fascinating though to play around and compare.
I forgot to mention the rind on this one. The rind is edible. It is a natural rind, and they actually rub it with annatto. And annatto is a natural dye that's used to color cheeses.
Comes from a seed.
Yeah.
A plant seed.
And we kind of touched on that a little bit with the cheddars, but cheddar is the most famous cheese that gets colored with annatto, and that's when you see cheddars or Goudas, like this one even, I'm gonna say that this one is gonna have some annatto in the cheese itself, because that's pretty dark. I don't think the milk would get that dark. So it's a natural dye. It is harmless, and it doesn't affect the flavor at all. It's all for show.
Yeah. So our friend Jason, hello Jason, asked Rob about what milk makes a Gouda. And that goes back to any.
Yeah.
I mean, traditionally cow, because in Gouda, you see mostly cows and where it originated. But you can have it be any milk at all.
Yeah. If you, I've been lucky enough a couple of times to drive around Holland, and it's gorgeous country, and they have the canals, of course, that go through the towns, and they have these, the terrain is gorgeous. It's like that northern European, tall, open fields, tall grasses, and you'll see a lot. I saw almost all cows grazing in the countryside. They've got the land
for it. They've got the food
and the
grasses,
and the water. The good water source.
Yes, right.
And
which
so,
is why you'd see mostly cow.
Yeah.
Because there's just more prevalence. Yeah.
We did. I went to a really big factory in Holland called Beemster, and they're in a town called Beemster.
Huge.
They're huge, and I mean, you guys have all probably, since I know a lot of you have done some of these tastings, a lot of our Goudas come from Beemster, and they make great cheeses, and they're like a bigger facility. But then I went and visited. In fact, I emailed the tourist, the tourist information center in the town of Gouda, and I just said, hey, do you know any cheesemakers that live in the area that I can go visit? And they directed me to some just family who lived outside of the town.
That's awesome.
And they took me in, and we did a tour of they were aging cheese like in their attic, and they call those Boerenkaas. If you ever see a cheese called Boerenkaas, it means farmers or farmhouse type of Gouda, and they were so good. They were all cow's milk, but we do carry goat Goudas, sheep Goudas, even mixed milk Goudas.
Yeah.
But most of them do tend to be cow's milk.
They do. It really comes down to how they're made. There's a process. When you make a cheddar, it's a process to make a cheddar. When you make a Gouda, there's a typical process. Most of the time, Goudas, the telltale sign is that they're wrapped in wax.
Yeah.
They're aged in wax. That's kind of like the most traditional way. Jeff Select doesn't happen to be aged in a wax, but it follows all the methods of production of a traditional Gouda until the wax part. But it really comes down to that is the difference more than milk.
I mean, flavor-wise, if I just blind tasted Jeff Select, I would think that it was just a Dutch Gouda, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Oh, so good. Yeah. But it's interesting, Robin, the more you get into it, blind, you would totally know a Gouda. It jumps out every time, right? Because they are the sweetest of the ones, always. Yeah. They just always have a sweetness to them.
Yeah,
right?
It has to do with the make process, and they just take acidity out of the process by just the technique of washing the curd. So the cheesemaker starts with curds and whey, and when they get the curds into little tiny pieces, they give it a warm water bath, and that it softens it up. It takes they do that with some other cheeses. A lot of really mild cheeses are, and that can even be considered a style or a family of cheeses. They call it washed curd, different from washed rind, which is a stinky cheese. But some examples of washed curd cheeses are Monterey Jack, which is really mild.
Yes, right. I think Havarti's made that way.
Havarti. Yeah. And then, but Gouda is the most well-known one. And going back to what I said earlier, the red wax Gouda. Yeah. That was what I knew.
Oh yeah, everybody.
So if I look,
you knew Kraft Singles and you knew the Baby Bell Goudas.
If I went into a cheese shop before I worked at Venissimo, I would have been like, "Hey man, I don't know Goudas and no cheddars, all right? Because my
again, you too had that preconceived.
My idea of those styles were what I grew up tasting. So yes, there are the factory Goudas that are a lot younger. They're over pasteurized or kind of rubbery.
Exactly. No flavor.
Those are usually like in the 2 month range. Yeah. Whereas the real like handmade, the type of Goudas that like similar to Beemster and the ones that I was just referring to, those are a year plus. up to 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, if you want those crunchies, you got to go for the age.
Yeah.
That's a telltale. The crunchier, almost the older. Pretty much, you could say that.
That's a rule, I would say.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people think smoked. They attach smoked to Goudas. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, always, because that's how you knew smoked cheeses. Smoked Gouda.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Smoked Gouda. We've had smoked Goudas here and there. I mean, because people ask for them, but
Smoked cheddar.
you know, yes, smoked anything. We carry smoked stuff, but we
Our requisite sirens.
maybe someone got hurt at the Padres game. Hope not. But we do carry some smoked stuff, but we try to carry things that aren't overwhelmingly smoky and but for the Goudas, the smoked versions tend to not be waxed because the smoke has to get into the cheese and penetrate it, and they tend to be younger Goudas, so they're more in that that's that kind of supple, bendy.
Sounds like a good,
bendy texture.
Yeah, but so good. So interesting. It's been already a unique pairing.
I think you need
with
more
all of
wine.
them. Oh, look at that. Yes, I do.
Just get rid of the glass.
Yeah, that would be classy. We'll do that sometime.
Stay classy.
Out of the ball. Stay classy, G. All right, now we're going to go to the big bad boy, Robin. This one, I got to say, I was thinking might be the best with the Syrah Shiraz. With the jammy.
It's either going to be
sweet. It's going to be the bomb, or it's going to be
incredible, or it's going to be absolutely horrible.
Yes.
I don't think it's going to be anywhere in between.
In between. Okay.
I would love to hear the feedback, some comments on people of how they like what they think of the Roaring Forties.
Yes.
And how it goes with the wine. So Roaring Forties is one of my all-time favorite cheeses. This is one that I could have just standalone for dinner. This and some bread.
This is your fave?
Oh yeah. This was like my first favorite blue cheese to have with honey or with sweets. Roaring Forties.
Okay.
So it's funny. This is kind of a regional pairing, same part of the world.
Exactly, as close, pretty much as we can. We can get into New Zealand cheeses, Rob. I tried. They're very elusive.
Well, this is one of the hard. It's hard to get anything from Australia. This is from Kings Island, which is considered part of Tasmania, which I don't know if that's a state or region, but in Australia.
Oh my god! I'm sorry, I can't talk anymore. I'm just gonna eat this.
Neither of us are gonna be able to talk.
Oh, but wow, this one started off really sweet to me, my first bite, and now it tastes like a barnyard floor. What do you think? No?
It's just, I love
the barn?
The texture. It has, the finish is amazing. It's got a little, like, to me, fruitiness even, and I haven't even paired it with anything yet.
That's what I thought at the first. Now, lingers on? Is it still fruity? Then it doesn't get earthy and barny?
It definitely gets earthy, too.
Like the hoof of a cow?
A little bit. Underbelly of a cow.
The underbelly of a cow? Okay, wow. Wonderful is one of the comments we've gotten back, and I think it is fantastic with the Syrah.
I'm having it with the apricot.
It's 100% because of the sweet. I think you need it. That's why I typically love the blues with Sauterne, port, some sort of a sweet fortified wine. So a sweet fruity is perfect. This one is probably my favorite of them two together. That's great English.
You know what else? It's really gooder.
It's gooder with the...
There's also, to me, a little bit of texture, like almost a little grittiness to it. You can get a little grit.
I love the grit.
Which I like too. That is fun.
Yeah. Well, Roaring Forties, you mentioned coming from Tasmania. It's named after the winds that blow. So apparently it's very, very windy here. The cows don't mind, but it's Roaring Forties.
It's 40 degrees longitude is where they are.
Ah, nice. And the Roaring Forties winds?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good play.
So right there they have these famous winds that blow up to over like 100 kilometers. They do kilometers per hour.
Okay. Professor.
And can you convert that? I don't know how many miles that would be, but 65 miles an hour, something like that.
Okay.
It's funny whenever I'm driving in Europe and it says I'm driving like 20 kilometers an hour. I think I'm going so fast.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I'm a rock star.
And then I get the ticket mailed to me.
Please pay. Exactly. And then you do.
That's actually happened before.
Yeah, same. It's the best. But what do you do? Who cares? Work it into the budget. That's what I say.
I'll just bill Venissimo. Oh, sorry, just kidding. I would never do that.
Never, never, never. Okay, that is a fabulous blue rum.
Love
Remember
it.
that? Yeah, we've had that since we opened. I remember like the first time getting it. So this is a unique blue because it, like Gouda, they age it in a wax.
Yeah.
And that's just a fun technique. Most of the time you're going to see blues aged in foil. But this one, aged in wax, because I mean, it looks spectacular. Keeps the air, just the teensiest bit of air.
Yeah.
But not too much, but not too little. Yeah. You
Yeah,
don't want to
so-
suffocate. You don't want to, yeah.
I was trying to say earlier that the penicillin is already in the cheese. It's already been injected into the cheese. It could happen right at the beginning. It can go into the milk or it can go into the curds, however it gets there. And then the bluing will usually happen after the cheese has formed into its wheel or its shape. And then the cheesemaker will somehow either poke holes in it or somehow introduce air, oxygen, and then that'll turn the cheese blue. And then they always will end up covering it up in some way. And as Gina said, usually it's foil, it's aluminum foil, but for this one, it's wax.
Yeah, it's wax. I got to go, Rob, it was in Australia. Just outside of Melbourne is big cheese-making country of Australia. And Gippsland blue, do you remember that? We had it years ago. It too came in wax, so that's interesting, that both chose to do it that way. But I got to go and help the cheesemaker do it. And so for that one, Robbie, they put the Roquefort penicillium right into the milk. So they kind of poured it in. So the curds hadn't even formed. It was like at the very beginning. And it was a more creamy blue. Like it didn't have all the veining that you see in some of them. It was that more subtle, like a gorgonzola dolce type of creaminess. And I wonder if it's because of the way that the technique, of when they introduce the Roquefort. Yeah.
We should do this as a topic, but we should talk about the steps, the steps in the cheese making process. Now, sometimes we'll talk about like the reason for so much variety or so many different cheeses is because of the milk types. Aging affects it. Cheesemakers can mix and match milks, of course, like the diet of the animal.
Yeah.
There's so many things, but something we don't always talk about because it can get kind of technical is the make process.
Yeah.
And we've brought it up because of Cheddar and Gouda, and now you brought it up with the
These
the
are
blue.
all extremely different techniques to make each of these versions.
So almost everything has the same steps. Like it's the same process, but there's just little tweaks here and there, or some styles where it will not do maybe one step or skip a step. But it's every cheese comes in, or every cheese starts as milk. So the milk comes in, and the first thing that the cheesemaker does is coagulation. Is curdle the milk and
separate the curds and the whey.
Turn it into curds and whey. And then at that point it's all about how you treat the curd. Or you can say it's all about, I've heard cheesemakers say from that point on it's all about what you do with the curd. I've heard other people say it's all about how much whey you expel. It's like however you want to look at it. But so then with the curd it's cutting, cooking, stirring. That's all treatment of the curd. And for a soft cheese, as you mentioned, they'll keep the curd in a bigger piece because there's more moisture in the curd. But for hard cheeses, Cheddar, Gouda, they'll cut the curd into little pieces, little pebble or little tiny like rice-sized bits. And the more you cut the curd, the more whey or moisture comes out of it. And then you press it or you mold it. And that is going to give you the shape of the cheese. But if you can lightly press it, or you can press it really hard. If you press it really hard, you're expelling more whey.
You can get a harder cheese.
Milk
solids.
And this is all just like a cheesemaker playing around, or they're a lot of times this happens over hundreds or thousands of years of experimentation and figuring out new cheeses. And then after the cheese has been kind of made into whatever form it's going to be, then it goes to the last step of the process, which is aging or ripening. And that's something that if it's a fresh cheese, it skips altogether. It goes right to the market. It doesn't go to the cave or to the
anywhere
to the room to age. Like the Jeff Select goes to Minnesota and he ages it.
He's traveled all over.
And then again, the whey. If you're aging cheese, you are expelling whey as well. WHEY whey. By the longer you age it, the cheese will shrink. So that moisture or that whey within that wheel will basically evaporate. It's the angel share. That's what they say with distilling.
That's right. And cheese too. Angels get their share.
It's an angel share. It floats out, and it's, a cheese will go from, it'll lose 5 or 10 pounds or so every year of aging.
Yeah.
And it'll shrink, and it'll just get more and more intense.
Packed, and you just get all the milk solids together.
Yeah.
That's why, interestingly, a little factoid, Rob, that an ounce of Parmesan Reggiano has more fat in it than an ounce of a triple cream brie, which kind of seems counterintuitive. You see the triple cream brie and you're like, oh my gosh, that is pure butter, that is pure fat. That one has so much whey and water moisture in it, whereas that piece of parm is complete solid milk fat, butter fats, which is awesome. That's delish.
Did you put cheese making or the process as a future topic?
Yes.
You can cross it off because I just like...
You just did it. Okay, it's done. We don't need to. But we did want to talk about, because Carol had asked, the ways to eat the blue, you guys, not just off your finger or as a chunk, because that works too. Okay, number one with the blues, you guys, favorite, put it on a cheese board, any blue, whatever blue you find it, whatever you have, and just smother it in honey.
Yeah.
And then I love pistachios on it. Personally, it's my favorite nut on it, but I mean,
how about pistachio honey?
Pistachio honey. You could do pistachio honey. That's a great idea, Rob.
I think we have some.
Oh, yeah, we do. So, blue with honey, that will wow your guests every time. When we were in Australia, I remember going to a store and then they kind of like had fresh apricots that they cut in half, put the pit out, and then they filled the little hole where the pit was with blue cheese. So apricots with the blue, fantastic. But what's going to blow your mind is if you haven't eaten it yet and you have any left, take your little chocolate and eat it with, and Rob, you got to do it too, with the blue. Sounds ridiculous and it sounds like it should not work, but it's like a cheese truffle, chocolate truffle, right? And it's delicious. The chocolate with the blue, right?
Exciting.
Yes. You're going to eat it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So the chocolate is a pop rock chocolate, isn't it? Is it not?
It is. It's firecracker, so yes, they can't say pop rocks, but they can say popping candy.
Okay. I didn't realize I would get in trouble.
Chocolate.
Never mind.
Yes.
I don't want the chocolate police
yes, exactly.
come after me. Hey, that's kind of like cheese and wine. You have to, the names are protected.
Yes, it's not a brie if it's not a brie.
Jeez, I didn't realize.
I know,
that.
it's very delicate, but chocolate with blue, you guys, is another wow. It's a great dessert. Blue's typically a traditional dessert. Holidays, another one, you guys. I'm going to go on and on about the blues. We're going to do Singing the Blues someday, but holidays, the English will take blue. It's in like a little pot. Core out the center a little bit and pour port inside. Some people will start this process in September now and let it soak until Christmas, at which time you set the pot of blue cheese with the port in the center of the table and everybody just shares, dips in, eats away. And that's like dessert. Super good.
Did you say which blue cheese?
Typically Stilton. I mean, because we're talking England, but you could use any blue cheese.
Yeah. And Stilton and port is a classic pairing. And yes, I did try it with the blue, and that was delicious. And the what do you call them? I can't say pop rocks, but it's
popping candy.
The popping candy is still popping in my mouth. It's kind of weird.
I love it. So Jason wants to know, just a clarification, Rob, on Angel's share. Was that just the old-time explanation for evaporation overall? Like, it's an angel share of anything. It is just whiskey making is where you'd heard it first, right?
Yeah, so I've actually been to Oban, which is that whiskey place in Scotland, and we toured the facility, and they said that, and we've been doing whiskey pairings with whiskey masters and with like $7,000 over the years, and I've just heard them use that term for when they distill, for when the moisture evaporates. They say it's the angel share.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure there's actually another interesting story behind that as well.
Yeah. But we think the angels deserve a share of the cheese evaporation, right? So they get a share of it too, Jason.
So I just appropriated their term, but I like it. You were talking about pairings with blue cheeses, and so those are really good pairings if you're just having it straight up like on a cheese board or for dessert. But I love a steak with blue cheese. That's one of my all-time.
Yes.
A hamburger, blue cheese burger.
What about blue cheese olives?
Blue cheese olives. If you want to do blue cheese olives, are the ultimate complimentary because it's just salty with salty.
So good.
You double down on the salt.
Double down on the salt. And I'm going to toot our own horn right now because I am what you might call, Rob, an aficionado of Blue
I know.
cheese, olives, and martinis. Okay,
This is true. Yeah.
This is very, very true. I have stooped so low, people, as going to a restaurant, and if I'm not sure that they've got blue cheese olives, I will take my own. Because if I know I want a martini and I want a blue cheese olive in it, I must have one, and it better be good. And can I tell you, Rob, nobody makes the blue cheese olives like we make them. Because we use those Spanish Losada Gordal olives that are seriously this size. You can't say golf ball. What's slightly smaller than a golf ball?
No, it's like a golf ball.
Slightly smaller than a golf
BB?
ball.
Or no, bigger than a BB.
Anyway, great size, stuffed with blue cheese to the gills. I mean, like a packet punch. Spectacular. So blue cheese, you're right, versatile for savories, sweets, anything.
Do restaurants have a corkage for blue cheese olives? Like, do you have to pay?
Do I have to pay if I bring my own and put it in the steak? Oh, you don't have blue cheese olives? Allow me to put my own in.
I've heard of
That's
people.
That's classy. I know, but I had to do it. I have to do it.
Carrying around their Tabasco sauce or whatever, but you're with blue cheese olives.
I'm a blue cheese olive carrier. I wanted to find a carrier. Roger, my husband, suggested. You know how the old-time cigarette cases? The silver cigarette case?
Yeah.
But I need a big one because our olives are so big. Yeah.
Like a tin.
I need a tin.
Yeah.
Like a sardine tin of olives or something.
That would be
I don't
pretty
know.
Cool.
But, I mean, a girl's got to do it. A girl's got to do it.
Be very Mad Men. Your blue cheese olive tin. Because of martinis,
right?
too.
Yes, exactly. I could be very suave.
I like that.
Yeah.
Love the blue cheeses, though.
Yeah, that was so good with the wine, too. My favorites were the Quickes and the Roaring.
Even more than the Monte Enebro?
Yeah, I liked the Monte Enebro, but
not as
to me,
apparent.
not as much. It just wasn't as complimentary as the others, but all good. Very different. Sometimes I don't see a difference. I don't taste a difference in them all, but this one changed everything.
Yeah.
With every taste.
That's a fun plate. I mean, that's...
Yeah. That was around the world. We went around the world. We kind of have different countries, right?
Spain, Wisconsin, Australia, and England.
England.
Wow, we really did get around.
So we do get around. And New Zealand. Did we say New Zealand?
New Zealand,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the accoutrements are from all over, too.
California.
Croatia.
The fig jam is from Croatia.
Nice.
The crackers, California.
Chocolate is from San Diego.
So it's we'd like to travel the world as much as we can. Yes. So, if there are no other questions, our faves. Oh, we had favorites of Jeff Select. If there's other favorites, we got to vote. Jason loved the Jeff Select.
Yeah.
It is so good.
You can't go wrong with the Jeff Select. I mean, if you like the crunchy Goudas, the 4 and 5 year Goudas, I would say the most popular cheeses that we have are the aged Goudas and the creamy Breeze.
For sure, those are the top sellers.
Double,
all
triple
the time.
Creams.
Yeah, because they're delicious. I mean, there's nothing not to like about them. Yeah.
Exactly. How could you not like it? I mean, you're just weird if you don't like them.
It's super weird.
There's something wrong with you.
We'll still forgive you, but
yeah, that's fine.
What's next, RobbyG?
Sunday.
Or shall I say,
Robbie.
Dolly Longra?
Dolly Longra?
I'm trying to think what I might call you.
Well,
we're going to have some fun with cheese, are we not?
Sunday sessions. That's this Sunday coming up, right? We're gonna do. The theme is fun. We're gonna talk about having fun at work.
Yes.
What having fun at work morphed into in terms of our cheesy names that we started coming up with.
Yes, because we all had to start with a cheese title, and Rob took it to the next level. Let's put it that way.
When that was I think that was the main reason I wanted to work at Venissimo is because I wanted to come up with a cheese name. No, when we start working at Venissimo, we encourage people to come up with their own cheese name. And I went a little crazy with that.
We did. So you're not only going to learn these names, and they're hilarious, we're going to taste the cheeses associated with the names.
Yeah.
And we're just going to talk about fun in general, because I think we all need fun now, and we're going to keep it fun.
Yeah, and we'll talk about just exactly having fun at work or just in life.
In general.
And that's actually the real reason why I went to work at Venissimo. I decided to follow my passion and to do something that I would have fun. I mean, Are you
still having fun?
I am, believe it or not.
Me too.
I'm having fun because I'm not doing the same thing I was 10 years ago. I'm not doing the same thing I was 10 days ago. We're always changing and evolving, and that's what I love. And I just figured if I find a job that I like, then it's almost like I don't have a job. It's like you're just having fun and getting paid for it.
There we go.
That was my philosophy.
That is a good one, and that is what we will discuss Sunday. In the meantime, thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed it. Any questions, always welcome to reach out. Love to see you. I'm happy when I got to meet some of you at the shops. And just happy that you're joining. And want you to enjoy the cheese, as we always like to say. Cheers to cheese. And what do we say today? Au revoir.
Happy Wino Wednesday. What do
Syrah,
they say in
Syrah.
What do they say in New Zealand?
Goodbye, mate. I don't know what they say. But we will say, see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.